One of the really cool things about the NFL is shit can change dramatically from one season to the next. And even within a season, right? Like you go back to 2021. There's all this excitement for Jaguars fans. They're like, yes, the tank paid off. Get Trevor Lawrence in the draft. Convinced myself that Urban Meyer won't be a nut job. And then as Jags fans go through the season, they're like, oh, Urban Meyer really is that big of a tool. Yikes. And this is not working, and this is not going well, and Trevor Lawrence looks like he's really bad, and he's not developing, and yeah. And the Jags turn around, and they've got the number one pick again. And you're like, oh, God. So they go and hire Doug Peterson, bring in a former NFL quarterback, former NFL head coach, won a Super Bowl, right, as a head coach, and bring him in and say, we got to fix this, we got to change this. I mean, Urban Meyer didn't even make it through all of 2021. That's how crazy it was. And I liked this hiring of Doug Peterson for the Jags. I really did. And I really felt like the Bears should have been interested in Doug Peterson way more. Like, leave it to a dumb organization like the Bears to say, yes, we want the defensive coordinator from the Colts who didn't even make the playoffs the last year he was there because his defense gagged and choked on dicks against these same fucking Jags at the end of 2021. That's the guy! Bears football! Meanwhile, the Jaguars organization says, hey, you know what? We're pretty shitty, but as a general rule, you got to be doing something right if you're a head coach that won a Super Bowl. And we've got a young quarterback that could benefit from working with a guy that was a former quarterback in the league. So maybe we want to bring him in. Now, initially, it didn't go well in 2022. Like, it got off to a pretty rough start. 2-6, starting to look kind of like, I don't know about that. And again, it's amazing how quickly the vibe can change, not just from one season to the next, but within the season as it plays out itself. Because the Jags go from 2-6 to winning 7 of their last 9 games to win a really bad AFC South. They get into the playoffs. And you've got Trevor Lawrence throwing for over 4,000 yards, etc., blah, blah, blah. But then you go into that wild card round game against the Chargers, and you're getting boat raced. It looks like it's a total smoke show in that first half. Like, it was freaking ugly. Lawrence throws 4 picks. Like, he looks overwhelmed, outmatched, everything else. And then they came back. And that was like a real character building second half to me for this Chargers, or against the Chargers. As the Jags just kept fighting. They just kept coming and plugging away. And before you know it, they're in position and they win a freaking playoff game. The Jags went from 2-6 at midway point of the season to being in the divisional round of the playoffs where they actually stuck a competitive game to the Chiefs. Like, yeah, I could totally understand why Jaguars fans would be excited right now. They should be. Ain't going to have me screaming, Duval football, or anything like that. But. From where they were to where they are now, like, it feels like they're going to be one of them teams right now, right? They really do. Like, they didn't add a lot in free agency. I think they did sign Brandon McManus at their kicker, but you look at the draft, I did like, even though I felt Anton Harrison was a reach, I did like how the Jaguars maneuvered and manipulated the draft board, moved down a few spots because they're like, we're not going to be able to get this guy at the end of round 2, so we're going to reach on him a little bit here because he does address a future need. Makes sense to me, right? You're thinking about, hey, we lose Juwan Taylor in free agency, and I want to draft the next wave. Brenton Strange, I thought, was actually underrated as a prospect, as a tight end. You know, maybe him and Evan Ingram could be a nice 1-2 combination. Then Tank Bigsby, the running back, will come into a running back room where they have some depth already. And that's actually, I think, one of the strengths of this team is this team's running game, right? You look at Travis Etienne, went over, I think, 1,100 yards on the ground last year. Trevor Lawrence can certainly move with his feet, and he's a threat to run and gain yardage. Then, you know, they signed, who else? They signed Dearness Johnston, I think. And then you draft Tank Bigsby. Like, this is a team that should be able to run the ball pretty effectively in 2023. And you've got Trevor Lawrence. I mean, he's the dude now. He is. Like, dude threw for over 4,000 yards, won a playoff game. Like, you can stop doubting whether or not he's going to be the guy long term. You just try to figure out whether he truly belongs in the elite category with the Mahomeses, the Burrows, and the Allens. And my answer is not yet, but if he progresses in 2023, he's going to be in that mix. He's going to be in that mix. So the Jags come in with a huge advantage, especially relative to their division. They have the best quarterback in the AFC South by a good measure. That's a really nice advantage to have. And then, I look at their defense, and I say their linebacking core I think is pretty solid. You've got Josh Allen, one edge rusher. Trayvon Walker has a lot of upside, but not a lot of production. If he develops, and he gets production and performance to match up to potential and physical skills, they're going to be scary. And then you've got Lloyd and Olawokun on the inside. That's a solid linebacking core. Some of the questions I have for the Jags, though, their secondary, I think they are certainly vulnerable. They can be had, and I don't think they're a whole lot better this year. I look at their pass rush, and they were towards the bottom of the league in sacks. Like Trayvon Walker, being a 3.5 sack guy isn't going to fucking cut it. He needs to be a double-digit sack guy. And if you're going to say this or that, no, fuck that. You took an edge rusher number 1 overall. He needs to be one of those top 3-5 in the league pressure and sack and quarterback hit guys. And if he's not, he's a fucking bust. Period. They need more out of him. They need to be able to generate more pass rush. Because what happens if they don't, it's going to give quarterbacks like Allen, Burrow, Mahomes in the playoffs time to be able to pick apart that questionable secondary. And then their offensive line, wonder with Jawan Taylor going, how they're going to be able to fill that void. How's that offensive line going to be able to hold up? It's a fair question to me. As I look at this Jags team, though, the most important games to me are going to be some of the marquee matchups, like week 2, hosting Kansas City. That's a big spot for the Jags, especially the Chiefs coming off of a week 1 loss on Thursday night to the Lions. Imagine the Jags could go and they win that game in week 2, and now all of a sudden the Chiefs are staring down the barrel of 0-2. And the Jags have a tiebreaker advantage on them. Week 5, they go to Buffalo. That's a big early season test. Week 10, hosting San Francisco could be a similar thing. Week 13, hosting Cincinnati. Those would, in theory, appear to be the 4 marquee, 4 toughest matchups, 4 biggest matchups on the Jags' schedule in 2023. And 3 of them are at home. So very interesting. I think there's no question right now on paper that the Jags are the best team in this division. In part because I think they've got the best coach in the division. I think they've got the best quarterback in the division by a good measure. And, when we talk a lot about the AFC, most people are going to focus on, and rightfully so, understandably so, on some combination of the Chiefs and the Bengals and the Bills as being the triangle, the triumvirate, the top 3. They should be. They've earned that distinction, that right. Who's that 4th team? And I think this is the 4th team. So I think they're going to win 11 or 12 games this year, and they could really make some noise come playoff time.